Welcome to the Bike Shed podcast, where we dive into all things software engineering, sip some copacetic coffee, and ask the big question: is the AI bubble finally starting to crack? I'm your co-host, whose entire workflow lives in floating windows, Raycast, and the terminal, Scott K. And alongside with me are my co-hosts. If it runs in JavaScript, he'll roast it, praise it, and make you rethink everything you ever knew about engineering, Matt Hamlin. And my other co-host, he doesn't just give takes, he forges statements, searing them into your memory hole, Dillon Spicy Take Curry. Fellas, what are we cooking up today?
Yeah, today we're going to talk a little bit about AI code reviews. Yeah, I don't know. I think Scott, you originally floated this as a topic idea. I'm actually curious to like dig into like how you guys are using it, or like if you guys have internal tools set up to do AI code reviews at work. We do, and it's kind of funky. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' experience with it.
All right, guys, I'll dive in first. I'm gonna jump the line. At Whoop, that's where I work. We're using it feels like we're using 3 different tools at once. I don't know what's going on. I guess they're piloting a bunch of different ones. We got something called Greptile. We got something called Copilot, which is GitHub's version of code reviews with AI. And then I think there's one other one, maybe CodeRabbit. Does that sound like a thing that's real?
Yeah, it is. We know somebody who works there, right, Matt?
Whoa, you can't just name drop mid episode.
Wait, who? What? I don't know someone that works there.
Yes, you do. You worked with him.
Who?
I believe he works at CodeRabbit. I'm going to look it up right now. Arvind from Fireworks.
Okay. Maybe we cut this from the episode. Worked with them is a strong term choice of words.
I'm not cutting it from the episode. That's staying right in.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know which one of those is going to show up in my PR half the time. Lately, it's been Greptile. And I didn't realize until recently that you could actually reply to its comments until I saw somebody else do it. Yeah.
Is it shipping your PRs for you, or is it just leaving comments?
It's just leaving comments, and it'll do change sets sometimes. Like it reviewed somebody else's PR that I approved yesterday, and it was like, hey, this is like a critical bug. Don't do this. And I was like, this thing is so dumb. And then I looked a little closer, and I was like, oh shit, that's like an actual bug. We need to fix that.
So you heard it here first. Like the AI code reviews are better than Dylan's code reviews.
Yeah, but my take is that we're getting so reliant on it that it's just making us dumber. And then we're like, oh, the AI will catch it. I'm not gonna review this as in depth as I used to. Maybe that's my hot take.
I totally feel that with AI in general, but I just, not to float off topic too much, I feel like, and maybe I was listening to syntax, so I'm syntax pilled, but it is how I've always felt. It's like we're becoming, like these smaller tasks are becoming like, I was also read an article about this, I believe. Smaller tasks are becoming more AI driven, and we're like kind of orchestrating things from a higher and higher level. Basically, like you remember, I started as like an HTML CSS developer, and now like that's not really, I mean, it matters in some sense, like things that need to be really accessible, products that have to worry about it, but like people aren't hiring for that. Like the scope is just getting larger. So like a front end scope has gotten a lot larger, let alone like, even though we're still kind of front end, you just need to be able to ship your entire app nowadays. You need to be able to build it from the ground up and have an understanding of how the pieces work together. The more you know about different parts of the stack, the more useful you still are. Matt's just like giggling it up over here. I have no idea what's going on.
I have no idea. So I kind of tuned out what you were saying, to be honest, because I have no idea how that relates to AI code reviews. So maybe if you can connect the dots for me, because I'm so confused. I'm lost in the sauce.
It's not specifically code reviews. It's the fact that AI keeps taking smaller and smaller tasks, but the human still needs to do like the larger and larger orchestration around those tasks together. That's kind of where things have been going. Sounds like we disagree, which is great because I'm ready to throw down on this.
I don't know if we disagree. It's just I don't know if I have like well enough formed thoughts on that thread yet. I don't know, but at the moment, maybe I'm like really focused in on the code review thread. Like I want to like pick a little bit more at that. And
Sure, I just think that the code review is another piece of that pie. Like just because
okay,
it can pick up some things, it doesn't mean it picks up everything. But at the same time, what Dylan's talking about is like feeling of regression or not retaining memory or not feeling like you need to do as much. It's being a little too heavily reliant, but it still matters elsewhere. Like you still should look at the PR review and have a fundamental understanding of how it's being built and if it's the right structure for what you need to do. Especially with AI, can often be absolute crap and it could be convoluted. One of the biggest problems I have might be that just AI churns out extra lines of code when it could just reuse things that exist. So it doesn't really write things in a streamlined, concise manner. Sometimes adding extra code does make sense, but it kind of just creates band-aids on top of band-aids until it can get unwieldy. So those are things to look out for when you're doing PR reviews. All right, well, back to talking about reviews. Anyone else want to talk about it before I tell you why AI code reviews are great?
since Dylan was sharing like the 3 or so products that Whoop is trialing, we can talk a little bit about like what HubSpot does. Right now, we have this bot called Sidekick, which is both a general internal chat agent. So like you can just go to it and ask questions about our code base or whatnot. But it's also the same thing that powers our code reviews. And it recently got rolled out to like basically every repo. I think it was doing like an initial trial, like infra-based teams using it. But I would say like, yeah, maybe we like save the takes for it. But yeah, it's interesting. But then we also, even before that, even before AI, we had this like review bot called Sparrow, which would go in and like auto approve PRs that don't have changes to like quote unquote user facing things. So like if you only change markdown in a repo, Sparrow could auto approve your PR and you can merge without getting any human review, which is kind of nice. So that like, I don't know, there's kind of this spectrum of quote unquote like AI review tools. Like there's sort of automated review cycles that maybe aren't very AI-y, but then there's also like actual agents reviewing code. Yeah, Scott, tell us how Airbnb works.
We use Claude again. So we have a like Claude PR review checker that just like runs every time you push an update to your PR. I find that the most useful. I guess that's what I'm advocating for is it often finds things you might not notice. Sometimes they're not real problems or they are overly safe. I remember like specifically like I had a handler that was like toggling something on and off. Um, and the handler lived in some conditional logic that could only happen based on the conditional logic. Claude review basically told me like you also need that condition that it lives in to make sure that it's safe. So like I thought it was like overkill. Like I don't need to say this handler that only lives inside this condition should also check this condition, but I just did it to satisfy it. So there are some situations where where it's a little bit overkill. I've also seen this. I think something I was doing last night, where I'm working with this diagram third party app, and it has a repaint method that I just fire, and it didn't like or didn't notice that and expected it to run through a regular like React re-render. Although it's all like singleton pattern, so it's a little like strange as is. So I ended up making the change that it asked for, but it was not really necessary. So sometimes it's overkill, but it does find like a lot of little bugs that you might not see. And it just basically does a code review and it's just like an extra layer. We also have in Claude code a way to run it on a review. So you can just have like a specific run and just get its opinion on it. So it's just like another similar run, but it'll run through locally a little bit better. So that's kind of how we're using it now. I believe before I started, they went back and forth on whether it should be used for code review. They might have used it to deploy or rather like stamp reviews, but we did not do that. So we still make a human be like the last line of defense, which I actually as much as I advocate that it's good to have code review from AI, I don't think it should be approving changes at all. It should just be telling you its thoughts. I guess if you're talking about like low level changes, there could be things, but I always think the waters get muddy here. Like, yeah, like it's a bug fix, but when you're in a really large code base and you do something that you think is trivial, like I think we've had this conversation about 5-minute deploys where you should be able to push these bug fixes so fast. Some like or what people might call like a UI tweak, like some little quote unquote UI tweak. Like CSS is more powerful today than it was when it was just, I mean, I guess it's always kind of been, but it's not just like moving elements on a page sometimes. Like you would have to like craft a list of things that are safe because you could put pointer events on something, right? And now you can't click a button. So there are things that can happen if not appropriately tested, especially in the 5-minute deploy world where we have 0 integration tests because we need to deploy immediately over anything else. So I do think there are like some things that you might be able to filter for, but ideally like a human just looks at it last to give it that overall approval.
Matt, it sounded like maybe this is going back to having like AI auto approve things. It sounded like Matt was in favor of that, and I feel like that Matt's take on that is a hot take. Like allowing AI to approve code. To me, it's just like, just give your engineers more admin privileges, and if they really need to merge something, just let them merge it. I know that seems kind of crazy. I just think like we need to just educate our engineers better so they can make good decisions.
At least I feel like we're pulling on some very similar threads to the 5-minute deploy episode. Like my take is that you should basically never be held up from like being able to merge changes in, as long as that is completely decoupled from automatically releasing your changes to customers or to users, right? So it works really well for maybe platform teams that work on versioned libraries, for example. Like internally, like, you know, we cut releases, and it's not like technically we do publish on every PR, but it's like we don't actually stabilize or promote that release to a stable version automatically. So like for us, it's like there's a gap between when we merge changes in before it's released, which means that like technically we should be able to merge things faster. And so my general take there is like yeah, like we should entrust developers to make the right decision and move fast. Meaning like in the case of AI code reviews, like allow the AI to ship a PR if it thinks it's good enough, right? You can still have humans come in and review PRs and whatnot, but I think it's like you should empower the team to move fast in order to fix issues and like roll out features.
So I'm going to be told that I'm just agreeing with Matt and I'm disagreeing, but I agree that you should be able to move fast. But there's like it's the same argument whether it's AI code reviews or it's deploy speed. It's stability versus speed, and at some level there's a balance. Like I agree in the sense that we should make things fast, but stability comes with some slowing things down, and speed comes with not having every single gate in your way. So yes, I think there's a balance between the two, but I don't think that we should just yeet out things and find a bug that we may have put out there X long ago because we just wanted to get things out as fast as possible. Speed inherently introduces risk.
I disagree that they're related to one another. I think they're mutually exclusive or can be mutually exclusive. But again, like I think maybe we're entering into 5-minute deploy episode 2 and versus the code review aspect.
I don't see them as mutually exclusive. I mean, like maybe two different teams own them, but at some level they still work hand in hand.
No, like again, like this sort of gets back to my point from our fast deploy episode where it's like just because you're deploying fast doesn't mean you're risking stability. Like those are unrelated things. You can have great fast deploys and great stability.
That I disagree with. I think in a perfect world that would be nice, but I don't think that right now exists. Everything gets faster, everything gets bigger, but I don't think there's some perfect world currently where that exists, especially at a corporate level. But I know we're getting off topic, so I'll go back to the code reviews.
I'll go back to the code reviews. How about that? Is it really beneficial to have an AI agent auto approve your PR versus just not having a requirement for approvers on specific files? Like, what's the difference, and is it actually valuable?
Maybe also to like step back a little bit and provide some context. So the bot that I called Sidekick at HubSpot, that can't approve PRs currently. I think they had an initial like phase early on where it could approve PRs, and then they realized that engineers could prompt Sidekick to create a PR and then have it review the PR and approve it, and then be able to merge it without any human looking at it or writing the code. So that was quickly squashed.
So that's like that was a hack that they discovered, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I believe it can't approve PRs right now. I think that was turned off. But we do have this other bot, Sparrow, but that's not an agent. That's just a very basic static analysis of the changes in a PR, right? If it sees that the changes in the PR only change markdown, for example, it can approve that. Because collectively as an organization, we've said changes to markdown in repos won't have a user-facing impact. And certainly in some cases, like maybe more for platform teams where you might use markdown as source content for a documentation website that faces like that's internal facing, like that gets a little bit murkier. But generally speaking, a change to a markdown is not going to break your application or lead to bugs. So like that was sort of like chosen to support the approval workflow. Dylan, in terms of your question, like, what's the difference between having agents that can approve PRs versus just removing the code review requirement? I think it still has a little bit of friction to the release workflow where it's like you have at least something evaluating the change that's other than the person that authored the change in order to determine if it's safe to merge or not. Whereas if you remove the requirement, then it's like there is no gate. Like it's I'm not saying it's equivalent to a human reviewer, but it is a little bit more than no review at all, is my take.
I mean, the more I think about it, it's like an additional linting step, in a sense. They can sometimes like lint for control flow being correct, or if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is the way I've been thinking about it also, where it's like, I think that the real like the sort of the bright spot of agents doing code review is like a little bit smarter than a generic linter to validate code patterns that are being added in a PR. Like you probably could author lint rules to do some of that stuff, but like at certain points it gets very tedious to try to author like a lint rule or static analysis rule that will, assert that you're architecting your application the right way, right? Whereas an agent can kind of internalize some of those concepts for you and be able to provide feedback on it.
One of the things this made me think of is if I'm using Claude in my editor to write my code, why do I need Claude to also review my code? But sort of my counterpoint to my own thought was some people aren't even using AI to write their code. So it's kind of nice to have like a final check that's like pseudo mandatory. Not really mandatory, but just happens for free. And it can catch issues that maybe would have been caught if you'd used AI before. I'm not saying that AI is always good. Like I have an example of yesterday when I was trying to use it to plan something out, and it was using docs that were just completely outdated and giving me like really bad ideas. So, but that's another episode.
That's a good point. And like, it's another reason, like a lot of people have multiple instances running or, multiple agents running and asking like iterative process questions and prompts. Basically, one agent or just one instance of chat might not do all the work or might not catch everything. And weirdly, we have this channel called Shit That Claude Says. Claude gets lazy sometimes, which is very on trend for developers. But it's funny to me because essentially sometimes, take shortcuts if you don't prompt it otherwise in some spots. So it checking its work is very similar to that, having multiple instances running and keep it drilling down on what you need. I guess like it can only I've noticed like issues with context, and I've seen people build multiple instances where it's constantly checking what it's doing. So it's like I think it's problems that personally, and I'm speaking about Claude, but Claude should eventually be able to do. But like it can only handle so much context at once. I guess context bloat. So when you have multiple instances running, they can keep each other in check. So this is like an example of you're running this one instance locally and another instance whose job is like more siloed to checking certain things can make sure that it's doing a better job. One instance, one big model that is really good is going to miss a few things here and there, for now at least.
I had experimented a little bit with doing like quote unquote like kind of like red teaming with AI locally. So I would have Claude, implement the change, and then I would basically stop that agent and like start a new one without preserve, or nowadays I would do like /clear with new, and then I would say, okay, I have changes locally. Review these changes, make sure they accomplish this problem, and or like serve to fit this problem and whatnot. So kind of as like a code review in a sense. And I actually found it pretty useful. Like it was able to catch some like logical bugs that the initial agent wasn't able to find itself.
It's like give me someone or give me an agent with a fresh perspective, and sort of a different mission in mind.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you net better results potentially.
Yeah, which is I think the whole like value proposition behind the like mixture of experts, mixture of agents sort of architecture or pattern, right? You have like a collection of different specialized things that can handle different tasks better than others. But I'm not suited to like that's my like maybe the limit of my understanding of those concepts or implementations. So I'm not suited to talk more about that. I think ironically, you guys maybe made me argue for the opposite approach of what I was thinking originally coming in here. So I think it's valuable to have AI agents review code, but I don't think it's at the point where it's an equivalent review of a human reviewing a code. So like I think it's like not that valuable.
We agree.
I mean, I had this stance before podcast, but I feel like you forced me down the alternative path.
Well, that's the goal. We need to make our our 3 regular listeners need some controversy.
Who's the third?
I mean, I don't know who they are. I just know we have 3 in the last like 4 episodes.
It's just us.
It's just us. All right, let's talk about this. Like, what are the cons of having AI do code review? Like, is there a con here? I mean, I think my only con is like sometimes it makes potential frivolous, more explicit code be written that might not necessarily be necessary. It doesn't really slow down the process. It's one extra level added gate. Maybe cost, if we're worried about cost. Is this the best way to spend your tokens? Maybe not. But I don't see a con in adding an extra set of eyes. I get that there's no eyes yet for AI, but like more caution that runs as a pipeline sounds great to me. It's just like it's just AI basically being some sort of lint-like feature that you don't have to build or find and maintain.
One example that comes to mind, and we didn't necessarily see this in the code review aspect of Sidekick, but when adopting it as like a coding agent for our use cases, we had like maybe we don't do any like post training or anything like that to customize the agents for our code bases, but we do have a set of one pagers that we basically say like, okay, if this looks like a front end code repo, then fetch this one pager about front end coding at HubSpot. If this looks like a Java repo, like a backend repo, then fetch this one pager about Java apps. And we have a number of these different one pagers that we fetch.
Tell me more about the one pager. I'm curious, like what are people getting from this?
It's not for people, it's for agents. It's I mean, a human can read it, obviously. It's just a markdown doc, so a human can read it, but it helps tell the agent here's how we write front end code, or here's how we use Chirp, our like RPC framework, or here's how you scaffold a Java service, etc. Yeah. But one thing that we found, at least on my team, is that we're like not simultaneously not a front end repo, but also not a back end repo. At least like in the front end tooling that we maintain. And so it kind of got a little bit confused on like patterns to recommend, or like how to write code in our repo, how to like run the repo, how to validate changes, stuff like that. So I think that's maybe one risk of or like con of like using an AI agent, depending on how well you've like configured it to maintain context about your code base, right? Like not all, maybe a good example potentially, right? Like taking Whoop's code base, for example, as far as I know it, like where it's a monorepo of packages, like you might have a package in there that's a little bit more frameworky versus a package that's a little bit more front, like feature focused. And like knowing the difference between those two things can be easy, maybe easy for a human to spot, but an agent might not be, I don't know, aware of those distinctions and like what that might mean for different coding patterns within those packages. So I think that's an interesting like aspect that
My like follow-up question to that is like, is it worth investing the time like constantly tweaking my settings for my AI agents to like operate efficiently?
I think so, but I think it's similar to. I think it depends on the size and scale of your company, right? Like out of the box agents like Claude or like Cursor, like are probably good enough, but then once you get to a certain scale and size, like you certainly like if you can get a more efficient usage of your agent for your code for a specific code base, then it's worth doing that, right? And the same like the cost savings aspect that Scott was talking about, right? Like if it's going to review your code but review it incorrectly 2 or 3 times until you coach it down the right path, then like you're wasting 2 or 3 times the number of tokens.
How are you guys or how do you think your companies are measuring the success of these things? Because I feel like my company we're like using so many different tools. I can have like a feeling about like how I feel it's impacting things, and I don't know that that's actually an accurate representation of what's happening. I'll say that like we're using a tool called DX, which measures like the like timing of PRs, like from open to close and things like that. So I'm kind of curious. I'm not sure if they're doing it. Like, are they looking at like, okay, in PRs that had AI code review, there was less bugs or like a quicker turnaround time. Is there any like macro level like things that you guys know that your companies are tracking related to these tools, or are they just like adding them in and like basing it on engineering sentiment and saying like, all right, it's better?
That's an excellent question. I don't know of the macro level of how they're doing it. I know we have people like working on the data. I remember asking originally because they had numbers about how many people were using AI, and they still do, or how often AI was pushed. And I know Claude adds like something to the message in your deploy. It also adds messages in commits. So I think they were like going through the commit history. That was what I thought. It was just a assumption I was making, and I was asking the person who gave the presentation didn't know, and I asked, "Is this how?" I pull that out of my commits, so they're gonna think I used no AI. Also, they are doing like manual surveys and whatnot, but I don't exactly know how they know per se. There might also be some way of seeing like API endpoint hits, like and who's making those and logging that data. We have like internal data. UIs. So I think they're getting metrics through their own APIs basically to do so. But I don't fully know the answer correctly yet.
Yeah, my fear is that we're just all jumping on the AI hype train. We don't know if it's like truly benefiting us.
Well, I actually watched something last night that was saying that in all industries, like productivity for humans is up 30% from AI, and like corporations are gonna just hire less people. I'm not even making that up.
I'm
That's
only
pretty.
laughing because I could have I could just start a conspiracy that says like that was a sponsored article by like Anthropic or OpenAI. I'm not saying it was. I'm laughing at that.
Oh, my argument too is like, yeah, it's 30% more productivity, but how much of it is actually better? Like, we have so many episodes about how like we think the web gets worse. So yeah, like more is done, and it gets back to our deploy speed versus stability. Just because you do more doesn't mean it's actually giving the user what they want. Sorry, I'm just trying to put Burns in there.
That's a good point. It's like, yeah, now we went from 10 PRs a week to 20, but now our app is like impossible to change unless we use AI to change it or something.
And a lot of people are talking about that at work is like lately they were like, oh, now that we are using so much AI code, like how do we as humans make sure that it's better more performant, easier to edit and write and work with? Because that's like the new concern. Or I hear staff engineers kind of selling like our skill sets as being the arbiters of that, or like now we're the architects. And this is kind of went to that point I brought up earlier where we're becoming more of the orchestrators. Like while AI is doing these like lower level lift tasks, whether that's, writing some HTML or CSS, it picks bad HTML, by the way, often. But anyway, whether it's writing low level HTML or writing files for you right now, you're still kind of orchestrating the overall level architecture of that app. You're still picking and choosing what dependencies you're using, what the services you're using to run things. So our job is just to like oversee kind of the AI a little bit, and we're kind of climbing up this ladder where maybe in the future, 5 to 10 years from now, I have no idea, but maybe like senior software engineers or software engineers oversee AI that write parts of the app, and we just kind of oversee that and make sure that it's making the right calls. I don't know what it looks like, but it's almost like we're moving back out of the weeds slightly into what we can be solving.
Going back to Dylan's question of like how do these companies like validate the the value or like measure the value of this stuff. I wanted to like talk a little bit about, as I understand it, how HubSpot like looks at the value of it. I think primarily we use like most platform teams use like an engineering like a NPS like yearly survey. So my assumption is that the same thing is going to be used for like AI usage, right? Like rate, like how how much would you basically recommend using AI has improved work or something like that. But one thing that I think we don't talk enough about is evals or using evals to get better results for your agents. And I think that sort of like leads to better feedback of like engineers get better feedback on their PRs from agents, etc.
What's an eval?
Yeah, so an eval is just like an evaluation of the agent, right? Like you tell it to do a task, and you have like you tell it to do a known task that you have a known result for, and then you say like, okay, evaluate the result of like giving that task to this agent against the thing that we know is the like known result or the expected result. How close is it to that? And so this is a way to like kind of validate new models or validate changes to models of like, like is it staying on track with what we expect with the results? That's my limited understanding of it. But what we've done at HubSpot is we've turned what is like a yearly hackathon of like solve these problems using like real world internal like apps and tooling. And we've taken that framework for our hackathon and used it as our eval framework. So, because we know we have a huge sample of responses to those, so we can sort of validate how the agent performs against the sample of the like solutions that have been produced, which is sort of a good way to like help inform if like new models are performing well in like evaluating our changes and things like that.
There's a whole team at Whoop that's like the AI team, and since we like have like a coach in the app that is like AI agent basically, they have this system. They have like built their own like platform basically, which basically does what you're saying, Matt, where it has like tons of evals. This is a massive tangent, but it's just interesting. I don't personally work on that stuff, but it's just interesting that we have something like that internally.
Yeah, I feel like we need to pull in a friend of the pod, Joe, to talk through this, because I think Joe had either completely did our eval stuff or like heavily contributed to it at HubSpot. And so he would be able to like tell us where we're completely mischaracterizing it and describing it incorrectly and tell us like what actually is happening.
I have massive AI fatigue from all this
Same.
shit.
Same. I actually write code sometimes.
And also, I feel like one of the things maybe we don't touch on enough, and maybe we have in the past, is that AI just like wants to give you the answer that makes you feel good. So even if you give it like the wrong information or wrong instructions, it'll just kind of like mostly agree with you. And maybe some agents are better at that, of like calling you out when you're wrong. But I feel like most of them are built in a way to people please.
Yeah, this is
And
colder than ice cubes right now. It always tries to agree with you.
but like we're so on board with it, this whole conversation of like, oh yeah, I use this for everything.
Okay, all right, fine.
But we're just like forgetting like this is just, I don't know. It's just kind of shitty in a way. It's super
It
shitty.
feels like a butler, dude. Like it's like, oh yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, you're so right. Oh, excellent question, Scott.
I mean, maybe it's not a spicy take, but everyone is just on the train and they're like, this is great.
I feel like then I have the spicy take of like, actually, it's good. This maybe gets into our stand-up update, but I've been okay. First off, Claude Code gave everyone that pays for it free credits. Originally, it was like going to expire November 18th, then they pushed it to November 23rd. If you were paying for the max plans, you got $1,000 of free credits. If you play for the pro plan, which I do, you get $250 of free credits. Yeah, free pollution, exactly, Dylan. But this has been amazing. Like I've just been cranking out stuff because of this. You don't hit the API limits, which is really neat. Because like previously, I think I was talking about this in the prior episodes, but like I've been hitting Claude Code limits pretty frequently. But with this, you don't actually hit those limits for some reason. Yeah, I think over the past maybe week or two, I've maybe merged like 20 plus PRs for like major feature implementations in the projects I'm working on, like whole new projects I've had it scaffold and build out for me, which is, I don't know, I'm just enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. Like
People pleasing Matt well. He's getting his dopamine fix
yeah,
from the
yeah.
agents.
It's like I mean, it's almost maybe more dopamine than scrolling through TikTok.
That's my fear, is we're just like we're getting so good at using it to like make us happy through our work. I don't know. Maybe that's not
Like,
a bad
isn't that
thing.
the point? Right.
I
Yeah,
don't
isn't
know.
the point to like enjoy the work we do, right? Like I'm just like, it's been great. Honestly, the high I get for like knocking out so many different things because of AI is like incredible. Whereas like 9 months ago, I was like, oh man, this sucks. Like I lost all interest in coding because of AI, but now I've like flipped and I think it's actually really cool.
Yeah, I guess I waver between those two too. But like also like sometimes I'm like, I just want to solve the problem, man. Like that part is the high I get. And maybe that's like, I don't know, sometimes don't you miss I don't want to like just be like, oh, dude, yeah, we have this problem and it's because of this thing. What are some options to solve it? And here comes Mr. Solution Take with 3 options. Like, crap, 2 of these are really good. And I only thought of one that it's not that good. Could I have done this? And now I'm like questioning how good I am. You could do it faster, yeah. But sometimes like I want to also like sit with that problem and solve it and feel accomplished.
I think it's a mindset shift. I think it's like yeah, like yes, yeah. 9 months ago, that was my perspective of like this is taking out all the fun of like doing the hard parts. But I think now it's like I've like shifted my perspective to the point where it's like, now it's like for example, a real example, like I want a better to-do list app, right? I don't want to pay for Todoist, but like all the other ones are like they kind of suck. Like they don't support the features I want. I want like a specific set of features. And so now the like the high that I'm chasing is like build me an app that does that. And like I can keep adding features without the overhead complexity of needing to think about the actual writing the code. But like I solve that problem for myself with AI.
You know, you're right. Instead of paying for an app, why don't you just pay Anthropic to build you an app? That's a good point.
But I'm getting $250 worth of credit for a $20 page. Like, right, I'm getting like $230 of free use.
Serious question though, how long does that last?
You got to use it soon. I mean, by the time this episode's out, it's too late. But you guys have two more days to use it. You should be using it.
No. Like, how long does it take you to use that?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. I have $128 of credit left, so I'm 50% remaining.
And you've been using it how long?
Like a week and a half.
Dude, I would ultra think my way through that in 4 hours.
No, I've been throwing ultra think on every single prompt I throw at it, and it's like barely made a dent. It's incredible how efficient this is.
You're using ultra think loosely. That's so great. That must feel good. That's how I feel at work.
I don't have ultra think. I don't actually need it because I can ultra think myself.
Yeah, Dylan can think for himself.
That's why he's spicy.
Yep.
All right, so I feel like we transitioned this episode from code review to just AI coding in general.
No, it's still code review. It's worth the tokens. Code review.
I guess I am saving there on this work that I've been doing. I'm not doing any code review with AI. I've just merged immediately.
Yeah, you're not even writing any tests. You're saving tons of tokens.
No, my test coverage is insane in this repo. Like insane.
It's like my favorite thing to use AI for.
But you don't even know what the tests do.
That's true. I don't know what the tests do, but I know that the coverage is great.
That was a spicy take. I like that.
My AI fatigue meter is like at 98% right now. The more we talk about this, the more I'm like, I just want to go outside.
But what's great is you can be outside, but you can have the clanker working on code in the background, and you don't have to worry about it. It's so nice.
Can you actually do that? Can you just say like, hey, just keep trying for the next 6 hours?
Yeah. Like
That's insane.
They have it in the mobile app now also, so I can like check, like I launch a task on the web, I can like check back on my phone like while I'm laying in bed before going to sleep of like, where is it now? Is it finishing this work? And then I have it open a PR, and then I can just review the PR like briefly in the morning and then merge it. That's literally what I did this morning. I had 2 PRs that it opened last night. I went through and tested locally this morning and then merged because they worked great.
What? I don't even know what Clanker is. Maybe that's the next episode. Over here typing it in Google.
This is where we find out that somehow I'm more in tune with Gen Z than the rest of the podcast.
Aren't you the youngest by a lot, like a wide margin? You're turning 21 next week.
Yeah.
It's a slur. I just Googled it. It's a slur. Matt, we're going to have to bleep out Clanker. It says it's a slur.
It is yes. For those who don't know, Clanker is a made-up speculative slur for robots in the future where robots are like subhumans.
Why are you? That's not the future. I feel like it's gonna be. I think we're looking at Terminator.
Well, no, you got to set them, and you got to put them in the place early. So you call them clankers early, and then
I'm not
they don't.
insulting the AI. I treat AI as equals.
I don't usually use clanker in most forms, but I think what I've fallen back to is I just call it a robot. So I just say like, oh, the robot's working on that for me, and it's just like Claude in the background working on code.
Does that sound like dehumanizing or demoralizing?
Not as much as
AI?
clanker. Not as much as clanker.
Does AI sound less like more efficient?
It's just harder to say like, oh, I
robot?
have the AI doing that, but it's like nicer to say that I have the robot doing that. I feel like
I like
cool.
robot. I think that's better. Robot sounds cool.
All right, let's jump into stand up. Scott,
the robot uprising of 2030. It's coming.
What's up with you?
Man, I work-wise, I finally launched the node list. Like I'm doing it right now. So I created like a search palette, a command palette, and it lists nodes in your workflow. Super cool. I showed it to the teams, that relevant teams. They're super jazzed about it. I get to write a Slack message today. Probably have AI do it for me. But hey, what are you gonna do? Anyway, no, I'll probably write it. I like emojis a lot. AI likes emojis too. Anyway, I'm also finishing up the visual diff tool. Secondary task was we have a review flow for the workflow. So humans actually review the code, and right now it's they're reviewing JSON. But hey, this is a UI editor, and basically no one knows the code here. So I built a visual UI review tool. So you can now use our select dropdown of different versions and compare the version that you're trying to deploy with different versions and the current live version. So you can see visually in a UI all of the differences to make it easier for folks to deploy. I'm almost finally done with this,
I
but
find it comical that you're like still working on a tool that enables human review when we were just spending the past hour talking about AI code review.
Yeah, I guess it's a UI tool. I think like we could put AI into it. We're my team's migrating off of this tool, unfortunately. But anyway, like the new set of tools is gonna have no UIs. That's what leadership wants. So we were originally going to put AI into this tool to do all of this work for us, but that was a massive undertaking. Um, we would have to we'd have to put it in the entire understand the entire context of all the actions, and we started working on that as a project. One of my team members, it was going to take like a year, and we were going to do it, but we're transitioning off of this. So this could have been a precursor to UI, sorry, to AI understanding the differences as well. But that's a good point.
AI fatigue meter's now full. Fuck AI. You can bleep that. I don't know. That's all. Just kidding.
The AI has pulled everything that's of value and interest and excitement from Dylan.
My passion for everything is gone now. I don't know. Matt pinged me the other day about a side project, and then I was like, oh man, I had that idea before LLMs existed. Let me just see what Claude can do with it. And it actually did pretty well. It's like basically a marketplace for
Well, don't leak the idea. This could be the next $1 billion idea that you have.
it's just some sort of marketplace. But yeah, it's been kind of fun to like see what that looks like in a prototype state and maybe consider making it something that I like roll out at some point. Or I just sell it to Matt for like $50 and he can take it and do whatever he wants with it.
Oh, I don't know if I would value it at $50 yet, but
I mean, I've at least used $200 worth of tokens to build it, so I hope it's worth something. No, but other than that, at work, I've been messing around with some of like the infra side of our next app. Realized we weren't using Cloudflare like workers traces, which is kind of crazy now. Just knowing that we didn't have the observability around like the requests we were making in the next server, and being able to see that waterfall of requests and like where we're making mistakes in terms of like too many requests. Like I learned through that work that, oh, you can only have 6 simultaneous connections in a Cloudflare worker. And we had like 14 experiment and feature flag requests that were happening, and they're basically like queuing up and blocking each other, making our app slow. So that's been like a pretty neat thing to learn. Yeah. But yeah, it's either we need to use GraphQL, as Matt just messaged in the chat, or I was thinking like, why don't these experiment feature flag services support like a batch endpoint so I can just get all of them in one go? And I looked at our like internal documentation; they just don't have it. I was like, this is crazy. How is it 2025 and we don't have a way to do this?
time to spend the next like 3 months writing an RFC and then getting an ADR on adopting GraphQL just to solve the use case of a batch endpoint.
I was just gonna put up a PR on the service that implements it.
Nah, that's too easy. You got to write an RFC, get the buy-in from leadership, and then you can write the PR.
Don't even get me started on that.
All right, I gotta give my update quick. 5 minutes until Olivia Dean tickets drop. a couple of things. One, wired headphones are pretty decent. I highly recommend them if you're using like a speech to text thing. So I've been using Handy, which is pretty dope. It's like a little keyboard shortcut. You transcribe, like you just speak to your computer and then it transcribes it for you. Before that I was trying Hex, but it was like a little bit funky. Anyway, it's free. Highly recommend. It's dope. Outside of that, I think a couple episodes ago I talked about Parcel's RSC setup. I think I've now completely flipped, and I think it's actually trash. There's my hot take. But now I'm just using Veet's built-in RSC plugin, which is pretty dope. It's basically what powers Waku today, but Waku like has other limitations on like other Cloudflare features that you can't use. Like you can't easily use durable objects with Waku. So I've been just using the separate Veet plugin, and it's pretty dope. Yeah, and I already talked about sort of enjoying code outside of work because of Claude's free credits. So, talk to me in 3 days when that expires, and we'll see how I am at that point. I think that's it.
Cool.
Let's end it there.
Are we done here? Just kidding.
Thanks, listener, for listening. Share this episode with folks that you think might enjoy it. We have some things cooking in the oven on next episodes. Hopefully it'll be pretty exciting. Leave us a review. We appreciate 6 stars out of 5 or 11 out of 10 if you have the option for 10. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Catch us next time. See you.
Take care.
Do not code outside of work. That's a terrible idea.